Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Now, hang on, I've just turned the telly on by mistake. So that's got to be turned off. Hey, so good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're watching from in this crazy world we're living in. So thank you for watching anyway. So in today's video, we're going to Australia. I've not been to Australia for a little while. It's all gone quiet about the Samantha Murphy case. That was a case we were following there. We've covered other cases from there. But really, we haven't been to Australia for a little while. Anyway, there was some news this morning on the Australian news that piqued my attention immediately. Because it was saying that some human remains were found, but it's nothing to do with Samantha Murphy. It's miles away from where Samantha Murphy went missing, so it's not going to be anything to do with that, but that's what gave me the interest. But then when I looked into what it was about, I thought, oh my goodness, this is interesting. And is this these human remains that have been found on a beach, on Wanda Beach, in Australia? We're going to have a look at the exact location in a moment. Could this be connected to an unsolved murder or double murder from years ago? And if so, could it perhaps give some clue to who committed the horrible crime that happened on the Wanda Beach murders many years ago that have never been solved? So the person who is responsible for killing two young girls is still walking around free. Well, as far as we know, unless they've died or something's happened to them, or if they've been arrested for another crime, etc. So, you know what it's like with DNA now, etc. There's miracles happening every day. So that's what I want to talk about today. First of all, I'm going to put my banner on. Say my thank yous. Oh, I want to say, first of all, thank you for all the lovely get well messages I've had. I am better today. You may notice my voice is a little bit better. I rested it completely yesterday, the second part of yesterday, which was Sunday. And I have done some videos this morning, but I've been trying to do short videos. Anyway, I'm doing this live now. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I shouldn't be doing it, but it's just so frustrating for me to not speak. And I've got some classes later, so probably by the end of the day it'll be bad again, but it does tend to get worse as the day goes on. So I just have to make the most of the daytime when it doesn't seem so bad, and then as the day goes on, my voice does start to sort of falter. But anyway, yeah, thank you so much. Lots of lovely messages that I've received. Thank you for that. And so thank you for those of you who subscribe to my channel, and not only this channel, but of course my other channel, my Spanish and English channel that I've been that I'm dual streaming to my Vicky Marie Chats Crime channel, my Spanish and English with Vicky channel. That has grown a lot with subscribers lately. People seem to be very interested in the crime videos on that channel as well. Everyone's been, following the case, obviously, of John George. Thank you for caring about John. This morning I've put some videos out about John O'Sullivan as well. And of course, the missing twins or triplets in Aberdeen, which, as far as I know, there is still no news of. But as soon as I hear any news, I'll be back on talking about that. So thank you to all my subscribers. I mean, in between the two channels, I have nearly 7,000 subscribers if you put the two together. So thank you so much for that. Now, so please subscribe or consider subscribing. It's completely free. It doesn't cost anything. Liking the video, leaving your DNA on the like button, that also doesn't cost anything. And especially when it's a case of missing people like Jack O'Sullivan or the two triplets in Aberdeen, it always helps to share as well, to get maximum sort of word out there to whoever may follow you, that you may share it to, that I wouldn't be able to reach. So with missing persons cases, sharing is important as well, very important. I also want to say, as always, a very special thanks to my members. Members' lives are every Thursday evening. So we'll be having a members live this Thursday. Thank you so much. Members can also use the exclusive emojis, and also I will do the, if it's your birthday, if you're a member and it's your birthday or a special occasion, I'll make a special video especially for you. Not like Dog the Bounty Hunter where you've got to pay $800. You just get it free with your membership from Vicky Marie Chats. And the other thing I want to thank people for are Ko-fis. People buy me Ko-fis. Thank you so much. Also, they send super stickers and they PayPal me. But generally, just thanks for any support that you make of my channel. Thank you so much. What else did I want to say? So I'll say hello now to, I think there's David. Hi, David. Hi, Grant. Yep, you hit the like. Thank you very much. Very important to hit the like, because that just helps the algorithm, of course. So, yeah, so I saw this on the Australian news. I follow the Australian news. I'm always looking for news about Samantha Murphy. Sorry, I just have to have a little drink. Coke, just something. I have to keep drinking lots of liquids. Help my voice. So yeah, I always watch the Australian news, or always have notifications, and of course it piqued my interest. The human remains found, and I was like, oh, is it something to do with Samantha Murphy? Well, it's not. It's a long way away from Samantha Murphy, the Samantha Murphy case. But let me show you where it is. So we're going to a place called Wanda Beach. We're up on Google somewhere. So Wanda Beach. So it's right here. So if this is Australia, it's over in New South Wales on the coast. We've been to quite a few places in Australia covering different crimes. And of course, especially around Victoria, where we were looking at the Samantha Murphy case. And unfortunately, Samantha's remains still have not been found. So you can see it's right, it's not going to be Samantha Murphy. But, that's what caught my interest, just the fact that human remains had been found. So, and then when I looked into it even more, so the jawbone has been found on Wanda Beach. Let's see if we go into it. And then when I looked into it a little bit more, so it's not far from Sydney, in fact, is it? Well, say not far, it probably is quite a long way. But that's probably the nearest big city that it's near. Here on the coast, Wanda Beach is a popular beach. And then when you look into it, many years ago, and I didn't know anything about this case, and I'm going to be reading off Wikipedia about it because I knew nothing about it whatsoever. It's an unsolved case. It turns out that 2 young girls were murdered on this beach many years ago, and we're going to look into that case. But this, just so you know the geography of where we are, we're on Wanda Beach, which is not that far from Sydney, and it's near the Royal National Park. But yeah, quite a way away from where Samantha, miles away from Samantha went, where Samantha went missing. So it's not going to be connected to that. But just makes you wonder, is it connected to this? The Wanda Beach murders. Now, if you are, I have a lot of Australian viewers, And maybe you know about these. These happened on the 11th of January in 1965. So, oh my God, many, many years ago, 1965. So, 60 years ago we're looking at, aren't we? Oh, the 11th of January was what? So that's quite strange, because these human remains were found on the 11th of January. Now, they believe it's a jawbone that's been found, a human jawbone. It has to be confirmed. I don't think it's recently been there, but that's quite. It's funny how coincidences work in the crime world, isn't it? But for their murder to happen on the 11th of January, and this jawbone was found on Saturday, which was the 11th of January 2025. So it's exactly 60 years ago. Gosh. I had a little chill go down my back there, because, police will always tell you they don't believe in coincidences. So what's that about? Hi, Matthew. Oh, thanks for listening from Canada, Grant. Yeah, I have quite a few views from Canada as well. So, is it Canada, or is it going to be the USA soon? Sorry, I don't mean to be political. Donald Trump's going to take over everything according to him. So, okay. Let's have a look at these Wanda Beach murders. So the Wanda Beach murders, also known simply as Wanda, were the unsolved murders of Marianne Schmidt and Christine Sharrock at Wanda Beach near Cronulla in Sydney, New South Wales, Australia, on the 11th of January 1965. I do think that's quite a freaky coincidence, isn't it, that this jawbone has been found, if it turns out to be human remains. Is this connected in any way to these murders? Because the thing is, whoever murdered these two poor girls, 15-year-old girls, let's just have a closer look. I've got a picture up in the corner there. Hi, Chantal. Thank you so much. Oh, that's very kind. Thank you. Let's have a closer look at these two poor girls. So you can see how old, it's an old photo, isn't it? Two 15-year-olds from all that time ago. Their murders never solved. And of course, yeah, as you say, David, as time passes, it's because let's presume that their killer, maybe they were 15, let's say 16. They're still going to be quite advanced age, aren't they, nowadays? Now, because it's 60 years on. So even if they were only 15 at the time, the perpetrator I'm talking about, they would now be 75. But it's an unsolved case. Obviously these girls, they were too young. They have no children. So there's no children keeping the case alive. These girls, their poor parents, they've probably passed on now, but they may have siblings. They may have younger siblings that are still alive and want to solve this case. So, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that it'll ever be saved. But do you not agree, though, that it seems strange that then on these remains were found on that same day? I wonder how they were found. But anyway, we'll find that out as we go along. So these victims, both aged 15, were best friends and neighbours from the suburb of West Ryde, and their partially buried bodies were discovered the next day. And it was a very brutal killing. So I am going to read it out as I go down. So I just want to warn you, it was very, very brutal. And I always think that people like that who do these very brutal killings, this was not a crime of passion. It wasn't someone who knew them by the looks of it. It was it was somebody like a psychopath, really, with the nature of their injuries, etc. So could they really have stopped? Could they really have stopped? Wouldn't they have got a taste for it? psychopaths don't normally stop until they are stopped, either by the police, by being caught, by being put in prison for another offence, or by death. You know, it's unusual if the person at this time was quite young. It's unusual, isn't it, for them to stop unless, as I say, they actually get arrested or something else happens. So, you know, have they done other things? So they were best friends, and they were partially buried, and their bodies were discovered the next day. The brutal nature of the slayings and the fact that they occurred on a deserted, windswept beach brought massive publicity to the case. Now, I'm presuming that if it was January, that's summer, isn't it, in Australia? So, you know, you think, oh my God, a beach in January. But of course, in Australia, that would be in the summer, wouldn't it? So by April 1966, police had interviewed some 7,000 people, making it the largest investigation in Australian history. And it remains one of the most infamous unsolved murder cases of the 1960s and New South Wales's oldest unsolved murder case. So the victims were Marianne Schmidt, who was 15, and her best friend Christine Sharrock, also 15. So you can see the causes of death was throat slashed, multiple stab wounds, so overkill really, blow to the back of the head and multiple stab wounds. There were also attempts to abuse the girls in an sex way. So Marianne Schmidt was actually German, and she had arrived in Melbourne, Victoria, with her family from West Germany in September 1958. So that was before the wall came down. So that's when Germany was still divided. So she has other siblings, so they'll be still interested in the solving of this case if they're still alive. So at that time, the Schmidt family consisted of the parents, Helmut and Elizabeth, Marianne and her siblings. Helmut Jr., Hans, Peter, Trixie and Wolfgang, and another child, Norbert, was born the following year. Right, okay, so there's someone who, their brother, Norbert, was it? Yeah, was born in 66, so he could well be still alive. So after arriving in Australia, they lived in a migrant hostel in Unanderra in New South Wales before settling in Tamara. In 1963, Helmut Schmidt moved to the family to the Sydney area after being diagnosed with Hodgkin's disease. I knew someone with Hodgkin's. In fact, I know two people with Hodgkin's disease. It's unusual, you know. Normally, it's got a good recovery rate, but unfortunately, he passed away the following year. So he passed away before his daughter was murdered. Schmidt's next door neighbour was Christine Sharrock, who lived with her grandparents Jim and Jeanette Tague. Sharrock's father had died in 1953. Christine, they always use the surnames, don't they? Her mother remarried and was living in a northwestern Sydney suburb of Seven Hills. Sharrock, Christine, moved in with her grandparents by choice, and when the Smiths arrived next door, she developed a strong friendship with Marianne, who was the same age. It's not known why she preferred to live with her grandparents and not her mother and stepfather. So on the 1st of January, I thought it said he was at, yeah. So they'd been on the 1st, so on 1st of January, they visited the beach at Cronulla, which had been a popular picnic spot for the Schmidt family. Diary entries read after the murders indicated that the girls had kissed some boys at the beach that day. Oh, bless. Well, good. I'm glad they kissed some boys. The following day, the Schmidt children visited Cronulla again without Christine. Gosh, they're doing it again. It is Christine, is it? Yeah, Christine. Let's see. Where are we? Where are we? Where are we? Meanwhile, God, they're doing it again. I have to keep going back to Marianne Schmidt. I've lost my track now. Meanwhile, Marianne's mother had been admitted to hospital for a major operation, leaving Helmut Jr. and Marianne in charge of the household. On Saturday, the 9th of January, Marianne and Christine asked Marianne's mother, who was still hospitalised, if they could take the younger children to Cronulla Beach the next day, and were given permission. However, rain prevented the trip. And so on Monday, the 11th of January, accompanied by Marianne's 4 youngest siblings, the girls again set off by train for Cronulla railway station after transferring at Redfern. They arrived at around 11, but it was very windy and the beach was closed. The group then walked down to the southern end of the beach. So there's quite a lot of them there. It wasn't only the 2 girls. And they sheltered among the rocks. 8-year-old Wolfgang still wanted to swim, so Marianne went with him to a shallow part of the surf away from the rocks. After they returned to the group, they had a picnic. At some point during this time, Christine left the others and went off by herself. When she returned to the group, they decided to go for a walk into the sandhills. And around 1 p.m, they had reached a point about 400 metres beyond the Wanda Surf Club. They stopped to take shelter behind a sandhill as the younger children were complaining about the conditions. Marianne told her younger siblings that she and Christine would return to the rocky area at the south end of the beach where they had hidden their bags, then return to fetch the children and head home. Instead, however, they continued into the sandhills. When Peter told him they were going the wrong way, they laughed at him and walked on. Is it possible that they had arranged to meet a boy? The next morning, the Schmidt children remained waiting until 5 p.m, at which time they returned to collect their bags, including Marianne and Christine's purses, and went home on the last train. Of course, you didn't have mobile phones then. I mean, these days you'd be on your mobile phone, trying to ring them, to contact them, and then ringing the police or ringing your grandparents, but of course, you can't do that. You couldn't do that then, didn't have a mobile phone. So these poor kids that were just left there, but it made kids resourceful, that's for sure. They've just got on the train and gone home. It's always interesting to see these crimes from a long time ago. You have to put yourself in that position, don't you? That no mobile phones, you can't just ring the police, etc. Hi, Angel. I wonder if these girls went to meet a boy or something, arranged to meet a boy or some boys, anyway. They returned then finally at 8:30 p.m, Marianne and Christine were reported missing by Christine's grandmother. And the next morning, so the bodies were actually found on the 12th of January. Peter Smith was taking his 3 young nephews for a walk through the Wanda Beach sandhills, and some distance north of the Wanda Surf Club, he discovered what appeared to be a store mannequin. They always say that, don't they? I thought it was a mannequin. I think, I've heard that so many times now, I think I would never think it was a mannequin. And in fact, if I saw a mannequin, I'd think it was a body, because they always say that, don't they? Anyway, buried face down in the sand, he brushed away sand from the head and realised it was a body. And the police were called from, oh my God, what a shock. And the police were called from the surf club. At this point, Peter Smith believed he had found only one body. But when the murder scene was examined, Marianne was found lying on her right side with her left leg bent. Christine was face down, her head against the sole of Marianne's left foot. Both had scratch marks on their faces, and from a 34-metre long drag mark leading to the scene, police determined that Christine had fled, possibly while Marianne was dying, only to have been caught, incapacitated, and dragged back to the body of her friend. An intensive search was undertaken to find the murder weapons, a long knife and some kind of blunt instrument, but they were never found. I mean, did just one person do it, or was there more than one person involved in this horrible murder of these two young girls? Tons of sand from around the murder scene were sifted through, and various items were found, including a blood-stained knife blade. But police were unable to link it to the murders. Well, of course, this is before the days of DNA, isn't it? But I think if you find a blood-stained knife blade near to the body of two young girls who have been stabbed or caught, you know, it seems obvious they was probably involved, but I don't know, you know. Anyway, they were unable to link it to the murders according to Wikipedia. So no alcohol found in Marianne's autopsy. Christine Sherrick had consumed cabbage and celery that was different from the rest of the party. Christine's skull. Now, so just a bit of a warning here, because this is how they were killed. So her skull had been fractured by a blow to the head of the by a blow to the back of the head. She'd been stabbed 14 times. Her throat had been slashed. Their underwear, and she'd been stabbed 6 times. Their underwear had been cut. Attempts had been made to RAPE both girls. SEMEN was found on both girls, but the autopsy showed that they were still virgins. Marianne's brother Hans had viewed photos of her body, and he said she'd been stabbed 25 to 30 times. You know, that really is overkill, isn't it? You know, that normally suggests when somebody's attacked so violently as that, it's either somebody like a crime of passion, like somebody who hates that person for whatever reason, or a psychopath. Because, you know, even with RAPE cases, if somebody, you know, it's not, that is a lot to get carried away with all that hate, all that anger to someone that you don't even know, unless it was someone who knew her. And why would they be so angry with her? Anyway, it was Wolfgang had noticed a teenage boy hunting crabs, and later he claimed to have seen the same boy twice more, once in the company of his sister, and again sometime much later walking alone. But of course, this is a, you know, witnesses are not reliable at the best of times, are they? So certainly over time, you know, that it's changed over time. Anyway, the last official sighting of the girls was around 12:45 by local fireman Dennis Dostine, who was walking in the area with his son and saw the girls walking about 730 metres north of the surf club. He told the police they seemed to be hurrying, and one of the girls often looked behind her as if they were being followed, but he did not see anybody else. There had been a number of people seen in the area who were never identified and never came forward. So this massive investigation led to absolutely nothing. Nobody's ever been charged. But there have been suspects, according to this. So this is one, this Alan Bassett, who was jailed for the brutal RAPE and murder of Carolyn Orphan. I mean, I need to look into this case more, because it could, I personally think whoever did it, they will have gone on to do other things. You know, it just seems so brutal, doesn't it, that they wouldn't stop at that. You know, so there's a few different suspects that have come out, and as I say, I'm going to do a special a video about this particular case, because it's not only that I'm talking about today. I want to go on to talk about the findings on Saturday. So but these are other suspects. Serial killer Christopher Wilder, who I know absolutely nothing about. This Christopher Wilder emigrated to the United States. Oh, good luck, America. And then he was charged. So when he came back visiting his parents, he was again charged with offences against two 15-year-old girls who had forced to pose nude. So he's a prime suspect, isn't he? In the first half of 1984, back in the United States, he committed 8 murders and attempted several more. He accidentally killed himself during a struggle with police in New Hampshire in 1984. Oh my God. Anyway, then there's another suspect, Derek Percy, who had been in prison since 1969 for the murder of a child on a beach in Victoria. And he's the prime suspect for a number of other murders of children in Melbourne and Sydney. And he died in 2013 from cancer. He was considered a leading suspect. And then there's a couple of linked cases. As I say, I need to look at this properly. I'm definitely going to do more of a deep dive on that. So, but this is Wanda Beach, where this happened, and it happened on the 11th of January 1965, and now on the 11th of January 2025, exactly 60 years later, there have been human remains. Let's have a look at the 7 News. A mysterious bone found on a Sydney beach prompts an investigation. It's been sent for forensic investigation. You know, you just feel, don't you, that these people, they don't stop, do they? You know, let's presume it was someone quite young. Maybe it was a fledgling serial killer at the time. How did they get away with it? You know, I suppose that's the difference in today's day and age with DNA. I mean, they must have a DNA sample. If they were saying they'd found SEMEN on the girls, could they not make a DNA sample from that and test it against these people that they suspect, or they did suspect? Or maybe those people died before that was possible. Anyway, whatever, these bones that have been found today, they belong to someone. You know, they're somebody's bone. But they're not giving out much information, just so that literally this is it. Police are investigating after a bone was found on a popular Sydney beach. They were called to Cronulla Beach at around 12:30 on Saturday after the discovery. The bone has been sent for forensic examination and investigations are ongoing. Police said no further information is available at this time. So let's have a look. Now, it's funny because then on the, let's see, what about this? So loved ones of the 2 girls, this is just, this was from Saturday the 11th of January, this news article. Loved ones of the 2 girls murdered at Sydney's Wanda Beach, so they do still have some relatives alive, reflect on the cold case 60 years on. Okay, let's have a look at this video.
You think of it. And when I used to go swimming there, after this all happened, you stayed away from the Wanda end of the beach.
In 1965, this suburban Sydney beach was rocked by violence. It was a windy January day when teenagers Christine Sharrock, Marianne Schmidt and her younger siblings caught a train to Wanda Beach north of Cronulla. For reasons still unknown, the girls wandered off into the sandhills, leaving their siblings behind. A day later, their bodies were found with multiple stab wounds in the same area.
Gosh, I mean, it's like looking back at how everything's so sophisticated now, isn't it? I do think it's hard for people to get away with murder now, but it wasn't years ago, was it? But of course there will be, as we've seen, there's a lot of people out there that have committed atrocities years ago that are getting held to account now, and there's a lot of people being nervous looking over their shoulder. But maybe in this case, those twonks or whoever did it, they're probably, well, they'll be facing another sort of justice now in the next world. Might have got away with it in this world, but I firmly believe they won't have got away with it in the next world. And but just looking at this, you just think, oh my God, it's a wonder anyone ever got found, accountable. Also, to me, it tells me why in those days, really, the death penalty, in my opinion, was wrong, because there was too much room for error. I mean, I have mixed feelings about the death penalty. I don't believe the state has the right to take a life. Anyone has the right to take a life. But in these modern times, at least you could be more certain, couldn't you, that there wasn't going to be a miscarriage of justice, because DNA has sort of, established that, hasn't it? But of course, the other thing is now that we're so reliant on DNA, if like in the Richard Allen and the Delphi case, there is no DNA for whatever reason. I mean, I personally think he washed those girls' body in the creek. That's why they were undressed and dressed again in the wrong clothes. And I believe that it's quite likely that what Richard Allen did was undress the girls, wash the bodies, put the wrong clothes on Abby, and then when it came to dressing Libby, because Libby was bigger than Abby, he suddenly realised that he put the wrong clothes on, back on. And don't forget, the clothes were sopping wet through. They'd been washed in the creek. He was forensically aware, Richard Allen. And then, of course, he didn't have time to carry on with what he was doing because he saw the white van. I think one day I'll do a video of how I think it went down, and this is just my opinion, but it just makes sense. But of course, because there was no DNA found, there was an outcry, but people were found guilty of murder before we ever had DNA to rely on. What do people think people were found guilty of murder with before, when we didn't have DNA? So all DNA has helped so much because it's made things so much more certain, and it's made it possible to link different crimes, to the same person, which is difficult, years ago. And of course, places weren't different in big countries like Australia or America, etc. There wasn't so much communication between states, between areas, as there is now. But yeah, that's what the police had to do then, was try and work without DNA and try their best, to solve murders without the more sophisticated things. Of course, data, there was no data then, couldn't be checking mobile phones, etc. So it was a hard job that they had. You think, God, how could they possibly nobody have been found accountable? But it was a whole different time, wasn't it?
So my uncle had to go to the morgue and identify a body, and he'd said the only thing he could recognise was a hair.
The killings launched one of the state's largest homicide investigations.
I'm standing beside the shallow graves in which their killer put them.
The events and the wounds inflicted on the girls, we feel that this man is a compulsive killer.
Christine's cousin, Robin Lewis, was just 12 years old at the time.
I mean, it's not like you had murders every day of the week back then. You thought you were safe. They thought they were safe.
A $20,000 reward was posted for information as police zeroed in on several persons of interest. One of them was notorious serial killer Christopher Wilder, known as the Beauty Queen Killer. He'd sexually assaulted a 13-year-old girl in Australia before fleeing.
I don't know about that. I know a lot about true crime because I do watch a lot of it. And I see what you're saying there. It is a scary world, but these sort of things, they are very rare. They're very, very rare. Trouble is, if you're interested in true crime, which I am, and I presume anybody who's watching this channel is, you can in the end think, oh my God, it's just like happening all the time. But it is rare. It is rare. It's very rare. But, it just feels when you watch all these cases, you think, oh my God, it's like, but you've got very little, you've got very little chance of it ever happening to you. But, you've just got to be aware of your safety, haven't you?
To the US and murdering at least 8 women.
The FBI believes he preys on young women who want to get into modelling by promising to photograph them.
Police believed he murdered the Sydney girls before he eventually went on the run.
The girls at West Ryde, I think it was, he lived at Ryde, and there could have been a link there, catching the train, that type of thing.
Retired Detective Inspector Ian Waterson was in charge of the Wanda Beach cold case. He's re-examined the murders, including all the evidence and statements. Christopher Wilder died by suicide in 1984, but Ian Waterson believes he may be key to solving the case.
When you looked at the level of violence and the, sexual assaults that he committed, he was sort of right up there.
Another person of interest was Derek Percy, believed to have killed 2 young children at Victorian beaches. He also died in 2013. After 60 years, police say the case still remains open. Despite being the oldest unsolved homicides in the state's history, the original reward for information has never been increased.
Just peace of mind to know that they found out whoever did it. I mean, we don't know. Whoever did it must have done it to other people.
A family running out of time to find the truth. Ruby Ritchie, ABC News, Wanda Beach.
Yeah. It's a funny old world, isn't it? But I personally, just the feeling that I get, and obviously I don't know, but I feel like those girls were meeting somebody there. They wanted to go, they'd probably met some boys there. I'm not saying that the boys did it, but have those boys, who were they meeting? Why did they? To me, the fact that they left the younger children in one spot and said, right, we'll be back in a bit, they were going off to meet somebody else. Now, either it was the people that they were going to meet that did it to them, or it was that they just happened to come across like evil on that day. But in which case, why haven't the boys, whoever it was they were meeting, have they come forward? The boys that they were seen kissing on the beach, did they come forward? So I am going to do a deep dive into that case. It's irritating, isn't it, when cases are unsolved, even though, these poor girls, they're gone now and probably most of their family are gone. But it's still the thought of this. It's like unfinished business, isn't it? They deserve to have a name, somebody to be. These girls deserve that somebody should be named, and they can't be held accountable in a justice way, because maybe they've already departed this earth, and you just have to hope they're facing whatever justice in the next world. But it's important to the family that are left behind, and there are some family at least, that a name is put out there. People, it's for the girls, I don't know, it's like stories deserve to be told, whether 60 years has gone by, or 6 years, or 6 weeks, or 6 days. People deserve their stories to be told, I think, anyway. Hey, Grant, you've got my attention. You've got my attention. Yeah, I think Brian Koberger is guilty. I think he's as guilty as the hell he's going to, a bit like Rich Allen. But I know a lot of people are not sure. I mean, I've got to be honest. I haven't gone into that case too much. I'm going to go into. I do think he's guilty, 100%. But as the once the trial gets going, and we'll be looking at that in more depth. And I know he's got his. There's people out there that think he's not guilty, but I think what you have to think about in these cases, same with the Richard Allen thing with Delphi, is, well, he fit every. If he's not guilty, who's guilty then? Who is guilty? There is nobody else that sort of fitted in. He was there. I'm talking about Richard Allen now. He was there on the bridge. He admitted he was there on the bridge. It looked like him. The bridge guy looked like him. He confessed to it. All the timeline fit in, everything. So I think you have to look at it logically like that. Now, as far as Brian Koberger is concerned, I don't know enough about it. I'll be honest. I need to look into it more. On first glance, I would say, yeah, 100% he is guilty. But, then the thing is, you try and put logic to it and think, well, why did he do it? Motive. There's always a motive, even if it might be a motive that we can't understand. It could be just power. It could be sex. It could be, there's always some kind of a motive. And with Brian, I'm not sure what it was, though. There are, see, we don't, once the trial starts and we start to get more information, we've got very limited information at the moment. And it's not until the trial starts and we'll see, will this information be available to the public? It seems like he was actually targeting one of those girls that were killed. But as I say, I don't know. I think he's guilty, Grant, but do you know what? That's what court cases are for. That's what juries are for. The jury will hear all the evidence, see all the evidence, and they will decide whether he's guilty or not. And you know what? You have to respect the process. If the jury comes out and says not guilty, whether you agree with it or not, you still have to respect it. That's the way things work. I thought it was a very important thing that one of the police said after the Richard Allen trial, this is how things work in this country. This is how our legal system works. He's been found guilty according to our legal system. And if you don't like our legal system, you need to go and live somewhere else. And I do believe that. You have to have faith in the process. So we'll see. There's a lot to come out in that, isn't there? We've got hardly any information really yet, I don't think. The information comes out during the trial, isn't it? And then we'll be more informed then to make a decision. Hi, Popeye. So that's it. I thought I'd let you know about that. I will be keeping up to date with that. I'm just going to see if there's any information about the triplets that are missing in Aberdeen. I don't think anything else has come out. So that's, I will be doing an update on that. I think it's the 6th day of searching for these two sisters. Yeah. Yep. So the latest, all that I can see there is, according to the BBC, the search for these sisters focuses on riverbanks. But anyway, I'll be doing an update on that at some point. Okay, I've got to go. I'll see you really soon in the next video. Thank you for watching, and this will be interesting to see whose are these remains that have been found on Wanda Beach exactly 60 years since those two girls were murdered on Wanda Beach. So are these remains from the past, from a previous victim, or is this completely unrelated? Or does it have a connection to these Wanda Beach murders? Okay, thanks for watching. I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God go with you. Bye.